1 minute to the show.
So you know what you have to do?
No.
You'll be fine. Don't forget, there's the random share giveaway, and there's trivia tonight, which you know the answer to. Don't say the answer. They'll hear it. Okay? And there's going to be other stuff you're going to be involved in as well. Yes.
Okay. And there's other stuff?
We're going to be talking about the Mecum auction.
Oh, okay. And I'll get comments to you.
Yes.
Very good.
Excellent.
I can handle that.
I'm sure you can. They can hear you.
Okay. I can hear you. Imagine that.
We're no Burns and Allen. I'll tell you that.
We're not?
No. We'll try.
Okay.
All right. Show starts in 2 seconds.
Okay.
You're live.
Let's get down to the starting line. I'll tell you about what you're going to see on tonight's show. And the next time try this segment, I've got a little tip for you on how to oil and a little further instruction about air filter maintenance. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. Also in the Moto Showcase tonight, we have a 1987 Honda CR125 that was sent in. Beautiful bike with an interesting story. Here's the problem. We've got a couple of questions there as well. What's it worth? We got a 1973 Honda CR250 that is claimed to be the second Elsinore ever made. I'll tell you more about that a little bit later on in the show. We've got a Just How I See It segment tonight, and we're going to be asking you to put in some comments throughout the show because my Just How I See It segment is all about the Mecum motorcycle auction. A lot of talk about that all over social media this week. We'll be talking more about the Mecum motorcycle auction. And that's it. Oh, we've got trivia too. Don't forget trivia. You'll be calling in. You get a chance to win a book. We've got all that and a whole lot more coming up on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Abadi, and you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. Thank you, Jordan and Chelsea, for helping me put the show together, and my lovely bride, Susie, who's actually on the set with me tonight. We're going to try out something a little bit different. And thank you, the viewers at home who are joining me tonight. Jordan, what do we have up first? Oh, yeah, don't forget to keep sharing the show. Whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, keep sharing the show. Now, we are only live on Facebook tonight, okay? You'll be able to see the show on YouTube tomorrow. But don't forget to keep sharing the show. And if you're going to be watching on YouTube, you can share it and you can comment Motion Pro. Our YouTube channel is actually going really, really well. Got a lot of people sending me messages about it from all over the world. They're really, really enjoying it. So don't forget, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. When you do, you'll get a little alert just like this. It tells you when we're live, and you'll be able to see all of our shows on YouTube. All the interviews, all the past shows from Vintage Motocross Q&A. Now, as I just mentioned a moment ago, we are only live on Facebook tonight. So you still can watch it on your big screen TV, and I'm going to give you a little direction here on how exactly you could do that. You, of course, have to have your phone, and you have to be connected to the same Wi-Fi from your television. So with your television on, of course, you will go on your phone, and you'll go up into the corner, the right-hand corner at the top there. You see that little rectangle that has the Wi-Fi symbol in there. You're going to go on there. You're going to click AirPlay and Bluetooth. When you do that, Vintage Motocross Q&A will magically appear on your television set. You can then enjoy the show from your big screen TV while you comment from your phone. So you can try that. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Vintco, Motion Pro, Racer X, Preston Petty Products, Full Circle Racing, Northwest Mako CZ, Bill's Pipes, and of course, Sunrise Vapor Blasting. In tonight's Next Time Try This segment, I want to talk to you a little bit about something you should make sure you follow up on when you're cleaning the air filter of your bike. Now, when you clean your filter, you all can do a great job. You wash it all out. You're going to oil it all up like you do. But I'll tell you something else. No matter how much you oil that filter or how well you clean it, you really need to be careful when you put that filter back into the cage or air box of your bike. You want to make sure you spread around a little waterproof grease right around that lip. And I think we have a slide of it. The next one, Jordan? Well, they'll know what we're talking about. Anyway, you want to put a little grease around that lip because no matter how tight, really, you put that in or you have that screw coming through the back of your filter cage like that or your air box, it never, ever really makes it tight enough against the air box or the filter like this, the filter plate like you might have on some of your Hondas. And that area is really prone because of the induction of your bike and the air getting sucked in through there, through the carburetor. That's where a lot of your trouble begins when it comes to dirt and sand and things getting by your filter. Of course, you take great care in oiling your filter and doing a good job with that. But don't forget, always put some grease around that lip. Also, check your air box and also your air filter cage if you have one like this. Get inside there and make sure it's cleaned out and that there's no dirt and debris building up in there. Keep it nice and clean. It's one of the most critical parts of your bike. So next time, try that. In the Moto Showcase tonight, we take a look at a 1987 Honda CR125 that was sent in to us by Phil Agapio. Jordan's going to go through the slides. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the bike. Phil Agapio says he loved the show. Here's some info on my 1987 Honda CR125. I recently got this from a very good friend of mine. The funny thing is, neither of us knew we were actually into vintage dirt bikes. He just happened to see my Bultaco in the back of my truck one day, and we started to talk about motocross. Back in the day, Honda used to give him bikes because he was Japanese, and they wanted to have local support for Japanese riders here in California. Very, very interesting. Well, in 1987, they gave him this Honda CR125. He rode it once and decided he was done racing. It went back into his garage and remained there for all these years up until about 2.5 weeks ago, where he finally got the bike to me. I've been asking him about it for years. He finally did dig it out, and I will treasure it forever. Phil Agapio, this is a beautiful little 87 CR125. Very, very original, and you're very, very fortunate that you got it from your little Japanese buddy. I know it was on display last week at Anaheim for the Supercross. Phil Agapio, I want to thank you for sending in that bike to us, and for doing so, you get me your address, and I'm going to get you a coffee mug just like this, compliments of Vintage Motocross Q&A and Preston Petty Products. Thank you, Phil. Speaking of Preston Petty Products, they've got a special this week, a front mutter, $62.95. And I'll tell you something about this mutter, and I'm really, really excited about it, and I'll tell you why. This is actually, here, let me just do this. I don't have to read about it. This is actually the prototype that was given to me just last week by Paul Stannard. This is the original mutter. Okay, it's got the edge on it like the original one. This is before the integrated bracket that came on the top. It's got the logo, the Preston Petty logo, and the mutter logo on the front. It's an exact replica of the original mutter fender Preston made way, way back before the MX fender and before some of the others. Now, this fender is got a really, really nice arch on it. It's perfect for the 21-inch front fenders and or the front wheel of many, many vintage bikes. So get over to Preston Petty Products, check out that new mutter fender. They're also looking for dealers, okay? So if you want to become a dealer, you have a retail outlet. Don't forget, get a hold of Paul Stannard, and he will talk to you about becoming a dealer. Jordan, I forgot something at the beginning of the show, and I want to talk about it right now. The random share giveaway. I forgot about that. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, okay? We're going to give away a sticker sheet just like this sometime later on. Keep sharing the show on Facebook or wherever you may be watching from, and we'll get you a sticker sheet like this, compliments of Vintco. And I want to mention something else that I forgot at the beginning of the show that I want to tell you. We've been away for a couple of weeks. We were back in the Northeast. We did bring you a show last week from New York Swap Meet, but I've been away, and a couple of people might be expecting some swag from the show. So I might owe you a coffee cup. I might owe you a sticker sheet. I promise you they're going to get out this week, okay? Thanks for being so patient with me. Now we can go on with the rest of the show. And here's the problem segment. We've got a couple of questions that have come into us this week. Jordan, what do we have up first? Carl in Wembley, any advice on how to get a stuck carburetor slide out of the car body? This can be a problem when bikes lay outside or lay for an extended period of time, so where that steel slide will then start to corrode sometimes, or the aluminum of your carburetor will begin to corrode, and they start to kind of bite into each other through dissimilar metals. Now, here's a cutaway slide of a carburetor itself. You can see where the slide goes up and down the throat of the carburetor, and it gets jammed in there. What you can do, if you're patient and you have some time, is you can get some chem dip. Throw the whole carburetor in there. My advice would be to take the bowl off first, throw the carburetor in the chem dip, let it sit in there for a couple of days, and you'll be able to get it loose after that. Depending on if there's any scoring on there or any pitting, you're probably going to want to replace the slide. If you want to get it out in a hurry, you can take the carburetor off the bike, obviously, and you can hit it with a little MAP gas or a torch. If you heat it up around that, around the body of the carburetor, you'll get that slide out of there. But of course, make sure the carburetor is empty, and that it's off the bike before you go anywhere near that carburetor with a torch. I hope that helps you out. Phil Wembley, Carl Wembley. Next question, Jordan. This just came into me late last night. Fritz Gunther dropped me a line, sent me an instant message, and what he wanted to know is why the stripper that he is using. Well, let me just read the question. I'm trying to strip an aluminum Mako gas tank. Generic hardware store strippers do nothing. What do you suggest? The problem is, Fritz, is that the strippers today, okay, they've taken out, here, you'll see it right here. It says non-methylene chloride formula, as if they are bragging about that is non-methylene chloride. The problem is that the methylene chloride that actually used to strip the paint, but going back to 2017, a certain group of people in Washington decided that methachlorine was not good for people and that they weren't smart enough to use it on their own, and they took it out of paint stripper, making paint stripper today virtually worthless unless it's on wood or it is some type of oil-based paint or water-based paint that is on some old furniture. So you're not going to find anything that really attacks metal or some of your old paints that may be on some of your old gas tanks, okay? The only thing you can do at that point is maybe start to sand it a lot, and as you get down to it being really fine on the tank, then the stripper might affect it, or maybe some vapor blasting might take off the paint, but there's nothing you can do. I'm betting that somewhere in some of these small towns across America, there's some hardware stores with some paint stripper in it that actually do have methachlorine formula in it yet. And if you found that, it would be like gold. Try and find some. If not, you're not going to have any luck with taking off old paint on metal things like that gas tank from your makeup. Thanks, Fritz Gunther, for the question.
I'm Dave Arnold. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abadi. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jeff at Motion Pro, showing you our Bead Pro combination tire tools today. Now these are a very innovative tire tool in that they are multifunctional. They both are great for breaking the bead of your tire as well as spooning the tire on and off the rim. Now we have two versions. The first is the standard Bead Pro. These are forged 7075 T6 aluminum in construction, very lightweight for tool pack use. And then we have the Bead Pro FS, the FS standing for forged steel construction. Now these are great for shop use. They are a little bit longer, so you have more leverage. They're 16 inches long versus 9.8 inches long for the standard versions. Now the geometry of the tools are about the same between the standard and the FS versions, but as I mentioned, the materials are different and the lengths vary a bit. Now they have a nice ergonomic feel in your hand, and this cross T feature keeps your hand from slipping as you insert the tool into the bead of the tire. And on the one end, you have this innovative tongue and groove feature, which leverage the tire off of the rim. It easily breaks the bead on both off-road wheels and tires, as well as street applications, even those with large safety beads. Now the opposite end have this nice smooth spoon profile, which easily brings that tire up and over the rim to bring it off, and then spoon it back on. These are affordably priced, so go ahead and pick one up for your tool pack as well as for your shop use. They're available from your favorite power sports dealer nationwide.
In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we take a look at a 1973 Honda CR250 that is claimed to be the second Honda ever made. Now, I do have some comments after we get through this about this bike, and this, of course, is the part of the show where I ask you to guess what you think this bike recently sold for. It did sell on eBay. It was sold in Texas on January of this year. So in the past month, the bike was sold. Jordan's going to go through the slides. Don't forget, comment on what you think this bike recently sold for while I read you some of the finer details of the listing. CR250M number 217 may be the second 1973 Elsinore ever made. Needs finishing. Bought this from a large estate collection. Due to the previous owner's demise, the family only sold the bike as is with missing parts, but it looks as if it was somebody was in the middle of doing a full-blown restoration. I kind of disagree with that. Anyway, please don't ask me if the bike runs or if you have any parts available. The motor does kick over, and I believe it was rebuilt. All the plastic looks new. Please ask any questions before bidding. Seller to pay in full with a cashier's check within 3 days after the auction is over. I give no guarantee. There is no warranty. Now, what do you think this bike recently sold for? Okay, I'm looking at it, and I am saying that there is reproduction plastic on it. They can't tell you if the bike runs. They only tell you that it kicks through the cycle, and it doesn't look like anybody was really in the middle of a restoration to me. However, the number does check out, and 217 is the second Elsinore frame, or the second Elsinore ever sent down the line. However, the engine in this bike is a 1974. So the whole mystique of it being the second Elsinore ever made kind of goes out the window. Yes, the frame it's a 73, but the engine is a 74. What do you think this bike actually sold for? 3,000? 6,000. This bike sold in Texas for $4,750. $4,750. This bike popped up on Facebook a little over a month ago, about 6 weeks ago. And the seller who was representing the bike, I guess the guy who bought it from the estate sale, was asking $7,500 for this bike, touting that it was the second Elsinore off the line. While that may be, it is not original by any means, and the parts are aftermarket and so on and so forth. Now, I did get involved in a conversation with the seller, along with a bunch of other people who were giving their opinion on what they thought the bike was worth. On Facebook at that time, I thought the bike was worth $4,000. I got a private message from the seller telling me to not comment any further on his Honda Elsinore. He didn't think it was conducive for the sale. He wanted $7,500. I said $4,000, and here we are 6 weeks later, $4,700. The old dog doesn't know everything, but the old dog knows something. How close were you? Oh, there it is, $4,750 for the second Elsinore frame ever made, not the whole bike. That segment is, of course, brought to you by Full Circle Racing. Tom McAllister still running a great special up there. He'll powder coat your hubs, bead blast them, make them black, satin black, just about any color you want for just a couple of bucks more. So get a hold of Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing. So whether it's for your spokes, rims, on-road or off, adventure bike, whatever it may be, Full Circle Racing is the place you want to get hold of. Trivia returns. How exciting is this? We've got a new book by Keith Geisner. Remember, he wrote that book, Finding Number 49. It was a big hit among the off-road crowd. We've got a new book here tonight. It is called Discovering 6 Days. It is written in the same beautiful writing that Keith did his first book in. Now, we do have a question for you. This is a call-in segment. We are only giving away the book. We are not giving away those two beautiful helmets that we're showing in the picture. So, Jordan, put the question up on the page. I will read it to our brilliant guests, and we'll see who calls in with the right answer. What year was the very first international 6-day trials held, and where? Kind of in line with the book, Discovering 6 Days. What year was the very first international 6-day trials held, and where was it held? I'm going to give you a little hint. If you're thinking like, oh, it must have been way back in the 50s or in the 40s, it was way before that. Call in. 925-234-8181. That's 925-234-8181. Where was the first international six-day trials held? When and where? Operators are standing by. Let's move on with the show. Maybe we'll have a winner in just a little while. Don't forget, keep commenting on the Mecum motorcycle auction. We'll be talking about that in just a bit. I want to hear your thoughts on that. I'm going to be reading them on the air. Susie's going to be giving them to me in just a little bit. This is the Ever Heard Of segment. Jordan, I want to know, has anyone ever heard of a Hindle? Hindle is actually a person. He built very, very few frames, a very, very brilliant man. Jordan's going to go through some of the slides. I'll tell you a little bit more about Harry Hindle. He was a motorcycle frame builder. He was an aerospace engineer. He was a desert racer from England who learned his welding skills amongst some of the best back in England, the Rickman brothers, Don and Derek. A new job brought him to Southern California, where he worked at Northrop in LA. And until the layoffs in the 1970s, he would work there as an engineer. While in Southern California, he did become very, very interested in District 37 AMA races and became a very, very accomplished desert racer. He built his own frame, and when a couple of people noticed it, they began to ask him if Harry would build a special frame for them. During his layoff, he did start to do that, and he began to construct frames for some Yamahas, DTs and RTs in particular. He also did some for some Suzuki TM400s, Kawasaki 350 Bighorns, and some BSA Triumphs, both singles and twins. His final design was for a TT500 Yamaha. Most two-stroke bikes that he built when they were done were 30 pounds less than stock. And for the big four-strokes that he was doing, they were over 60 pounds lighter than they were in stock trim. You'd custom order a bike, you'd tell Harry what you wanted, you'd tell him what kind of frame, what kind of engine, what kind of wheels, what kind of forks you were going to use, and he would build you a custom frame that would fit all those items. The frames were sold finished. They were all nickel plated. They were also sold in unfinished condition as well, just bare metal. But when it comes down to it, less than 75 Hindle frames were ever made. So now you know about Hindle and Harry Hindle. When I started to read this story the other day, I'm saying to myself, where did I read about a guy coming from England and learning how to weld from the Rickman brothers? And then I remembered it was Kelvin Franks a few weeks ago. We were talking about Kelvin, who was also from the UK and got a lot of experience with Rickman. But now you've heard of a Hindle. What's up next, Jordan? Sunrise Vapor Blasting. My buddy Mark Farrier does an absolutely incredible job for us here in the shop. Does all our carburetors, lower fork legs, and a lot of other things. And a lot of people are very, very happy with what Mark Farrier and Sunrise Vapor Blasting have been doing. His turnaround time is excellent. His prices are absolutely unbelievable. And he gets it in and gets it out to you. So whether it floats, flies, or rolls, whatever it does, if it's made of aluminum or some type of delicate metal, you want it cleaner than new, you get a hold of Mark Farrier at Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Tell him you saw it here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Susie, do we have a winner for the trivia contest? Is he on the phone? All right, we're going to take a commercial break. When we get back from commercial break, I'm going to get on the phone with tonight's trivia contest winner. Don't forget to keep sharing the show and commenting about the Mecum motorcycle auction. We'll be right back.
Jason?
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
All right, we're back from commercial break, and as promised, we will have tonight's trivia contest winner. We're giving away that book, Discovering 6 Days by Keith Geisner. This is Joe Abadi. Who am I speaking with?
This is Jason Herman.
Jason Herman, can you tell me when was the first international 6-day trial held and where was it held?
1913 in Carlisle, England.
1913, Carlisle, England. I couldn't believe when I looked up today and I had to come up with a trivia contest question. I thought, well, maybe the 40s and 50s, but I couldn't believe 1913. Jason Herman, you are exactly correct. And I understand you've already given your address to Susie, so we are going to get you out a book, Discovering 6 Days by Keith Geisner, okay?
That's great.
And
Thank you.
you're very, very welcome. And you know what? Now that I got you on the phone, 1913. You know, it wasn't until 1973 that America actually even placed. They won a silver, and that race was in Massachusetts. Dick Burleson, Malcolm Smith, Ed Schmidt, and Ron Bone were on that team. But boy, 1913 to 1973 took a long time for Americans to get involved in that, huh?
Absolutely. I've been looking for pre-65 trials.
Yeah.
And like pulling teeth in the States.
It is.
And I said, doing history on it, it blew my mind to figure it started that before when I was looking at 60s and 70s.
Yeah. Well, Jason, thanks for calling in and playing the game. We will get you a book out this week, okay?
I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
I will. All right. There you go, Suze.
Thank you.
All right, Jordan, where are we? We gave away a book. We had some trivia. We are now in the segment of the show where I think this is just how I see it. Is that where we're at? It is just how I see it. Now, I've been asking you throughout the show to comment on the Mecum motorcycle auction results. There's always a big dust-up for a week or so after that auction takes place. Now, this is just how I see it. Right after the auction happened, there were people all over social media asking the same questions and making the same rather silly comments about what they think their bike is worth now. Just because they saw a bike similar to this one, a 1979 Yamaha YZ250 sell for $11,000, they now magically think that their bike is worth more, when it really, really isn't. Your bike is worth about the same amount it was before that auction started. It might be worth a couple of bucks more depending on the condition, but unlike the old expression that a rising sea lifts all boats, well, the rising prices at the Mecum motorcycle auction don't suddenly lift all the prices of every bike that's out there. If you had a $2,500 or $3,500 bike to begin with, it's still probably $2,500 or $3,500. Don't think you're now going to put it out there in the retail world and ask twice of what the bike was before the auction. You got to remember something too. There are two people in a room at the Mecum motorcycle auction. They both want the bike. They both have deep pockets. They're going to pay a little bit more for the money. The guy walking down your driveway on Saturday afternoon on a bike that you're asking $5,500 for probably doesn't even want to pay you the $5,500 you're asking, and he's going to want to pay you less. When you tell him that recently one sold at Mecum for $11,000, he's going to turn around as fast as anything, get back to his truck and leave, because you're comparing your bike at $5,500 with an $11,000 bike from the Mecum motorcycle auction. It doesn't really affect the everyday bike that's out there. It's a once-a-year auction. Prices don't change that dramatically from it, with the exception of one instance, and I'll give you what that is. You take a bike like a 1967 or a 1968 RH67 Suzuki, maybe a Puch twin carb, a bike that's very, very low in production, maybe a YZ360 from 1974, and then you tell me that that bike was pristine at the auction and it sold for, I'm giving you a fictitious number here, $20,000. If you want to tell me now that your pristine YZ360 or RH67 now might trade hands for $20,000, that I buy into. But not a 1979 YZ250 or any other bike where there was 20 or 30,000 of them made. So I did want to hear more about your thoughts on the Mecum motorcycle auction. This is just how I see this segment. So let's turn for a minute. And Susie, what do we got? Any questions or any comments from anyone about their feelings on the Mecum motorcycle auction?
Jenkins says the auction is what it is. You don't hear much about the failures. Wonder what percentage of sellers leave disappointed.
Yeah, Jim Jenkins, yeah, you bring up a good point. I don't know if everybody heard Susie in the background, but he did say, I wonder how many people leave there without a bike, or maybe leave there with the bike they came in with. I'm sure there's a small portion. A lot of the sales go on. You'll see the bid goes on. You'll always see that little sign afterward. And I'm sure that some people do go home with their motorcycles. Other deals are made after the sale is over. But yeah, through some arbitration, a lot of sales are made after the bike actually does go over the block. But a lot of people don't go home clicking their heels all the time. Susie, anything else from anyone?
Scott Wallenberg.
Scott Wallenberg?
Yeah.
What has he got to say?
He said they always say that nobody put a gun to the buyer's head.
Nobody put a gun to the buyer's head, I guess, meaning that when the prices go high and the guy pays so much for the bike, that, as Scott Wallenberg says, nobody put a gun to his head. Some people want the bike. They're willing to pay a little bit more for it. In fact, in some instances, they want to pay a lot more, and they're not going to leave there without the bike. I find that, especially this year, I thought a couple of the prices were, well, a little out of hand. The 1979 Honda CR125. Yes, the bike was brand new. It was assembled brand new. The chain wasn't even put on the bike. But I think the bike went for $28,000. I don't know who would want a 1979 Honda so bad that they would pay $28,000 for it. But apparently there were two people in the room, and one of them thought it was worth that much. I'd seen these bikes sell before. There are a couple of them out there that were still in the crate because by 1980 or 81, nobody wanted them anymore. Dealers were blowing them out. People were buying them, and I guess never taking them out of the box. I did hear of a couple of brand new bikes that never had gas in them sell for $12,000 and $14,000. $28,000? I don't know. I don't know about that. A lot of mini bikes are going for a lot of money as well. So I'm going to take one more comment. If Susie has anything from the viewers tonight.
Well, Brett Lucas says, do your research.
Brett Lucas says, do your research. I don't know who Brett Lucas is actually. I don't think Brett is probably telling me to do my research because.
He's probably saying, do your research.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do need to do their research, Brett, before they go there and maybe take a look on eBay or some other places or look at other auction sites and see what some bikes recently sold for. It's it's all glitz, it's all glamour, it's Las Vegas, it's a crapshoot, and if you really, really want something, you're going to have to pay for it. But it is a one week thing. It lasts a couple of days, and I don't think really in the grand scheme of things, it changes the value of everybody. Next year. Well, let me tell you something. This year's $28,000 CR125 might be next year's, and the bid goes on. Nobody knows for sure. I've seen bikes come out of there for a lot less money than people thought they were going to get. I saw some at no sell at all, and they go home with them. So you never really know. Anything else, Susie? Otherwise, I'm going to move on with the show.
Everybody's stopping because there's bad static.
Everybody's.
Yeah, they can't. Okay, they're back. You're back on.
Okay. So do we have any other comments?
Sound issues. No, we know there's sound issues. Okay.
I'm sorry about the sound issues. We are trying to get that resolved. We did go on Facebook only tonight and did not connect to YouTube as well. Apparently, the problem is through our connection with Facebook. So there's nothing I can do about that, guys. I'm trying my best. What else we got, Susie?
That's it.
That's it for Just How I See It, and that is Just How I See It. Jordan? This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X Magazine. It's a wonderful publication. It's available on your newsstand and online now. Racer X, be sure to see our ad in the back of every issue. Thank you, Scott Wallenberg, for helping me out with that. This Week in Motocross History, 1976. The Hurricane and Jones. The most pivotal Florida Winter Series had begun on February 1st, 1976 at the North Florida Raceway in Jacksonville, Florida. Now, these were the days before Supercross actually began in the beginning of the year or going over through the winter. In fact, the 1976 AMA Supercross Series would not begin until March in Daytona. The Florida Winter Am Series was the place a lot of the factory guys were going down to get in some heavy practice, shake out their bikes, and they were all there. This race was put on by Bill West in Florida, and everybody was there at that time. Suzuki's Tony DeStefano, Daniel Laporte, Steve Stackable, of course, Husqvarna's Ken Howerton, Can-Am's Jimmy Ellis, and three-time national champion Gary Jones showed up that year on his eponymous brand, the Jones Ice Law. Eponymous, a great word. Look it up. I had to do it. I didn't know what eponymous meant when I read this. But yeah, Jones was there. But the appearance of a couple of Yamaha guys was what really shook things up from the West Coast, and it became a game changer. Bob Hanna had raced just one AMA Pro National in 1976. He finished sixth in the last 125 National that was in San Antonio, Texas, and he was barely known outside the California desert. He was fast, he was confident, he was determined enough to catch Yamaha's eye, and they signed him as a prospect in 1976. He did ride the Nationals that year. And we all know what happened with the Hurricane and the 125 series that year. And that's what was going on in 1976. What do we got up next, Jordan? The Flying Freckle. Jeff Ward. He was named the Flying Freckle by Jim Weiner. But 1 week after failing to qualify at Anaheim, imagine that, Jeff Ward failing to qualify at Anaheim in 1976 for the opener, the defending AMA Supercross #1, Jeff Ward of Team Kawasaki, won the 250 Supercross at the Houston Astrodome, topping the Honda trio of David Bailey, Ricky Johnson, and Johnny O'Mara. Yamaha's Brock Glover would finish 5th that day. The winner of the 125 class at the Astrodome was Honda support rider Willie Surratt, who last week, or the week previously, finished dead last in his first professional race. A lot of things, really. I mean, when you think about that, Jeff Ward not qualifying after having the #1 plate, then coming back the next week and being guys heavy hitters. David Bailey, Ricky Johnson, and Johnny O'Mara. Unbelievable. But that's what happened in 1976. 1994 is coming up next. Rhino comes back charging. A bit of a sad story, really, but kind of a happy ending. Bittersweet, I guess, is what you'd call it. 1994. In San Diego, Pro Circuits Kawasaki's Ryan Hughes, 1 week after failing to qualify at the Anaheim opener after his father had suffered a heart attack and died. His father passed away right there. He came back the next week to take an emotional win at the 125cc main event. It was Rhino's first win in his professional career. He said, "Dad, this one is for you." He held the trophy up at the end of the race, and it was a tough time for Ryan Hughes, who the week before lost his dad during the race, and coming back the next week and taking the first place. Rhino, one of my favorite riders. Few people ever rode with as much heart as Ryan Hughes. And that's what's going on in MX history. We've got some announcements for you tonight, some really great things, some free racing, believe it or not. Oh, I want to thank Bill's Pipes for being a sponsor of the show. If you want to get a hold of Bill's Pipe, the next best thing to do other than calling them is go on Facebook and follow them there. You can see a lot of their products on Facebook, and you could also contact them through Facebook, through email, and that's the best way to get a hold of Bill's Pipes. Some sad news out of the Northwest. I found out about this while I was away at the York Swap Meet, and I was on the East Coast last week. I couldn't bring it up on the show on Wednesday night because our show was recorded. But a Northwest favorite, Christy Johansson, has passed away. Many of you knew Christy. She was a fabulous photographer, but she also had a great passion for Honda Red Rocket. She even had a page on Facebook that still exists, I Ride a Red Rocket. Unfortunately, Christy Johansson did succumb to complications due to ALS. She had been battling that for a while. Our condolences go out to Christy Johansson's family and friends. Christy, may you rest in peace. Vintage Motocross Radio. I've been telling you about this. I have been trying to get some guests for the show and also make some time in my schedule, which has been kind of crazy lately. But I have finally secured an interview with Flying Brian Myerscough, and that will be on February 13th. That is a Sunday. It will be at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Vintage Motocross Radio here on Facebook. Flying Brian Myerscough coming up. Great picture of Brian and I a couple of months back at the Terry Good International Motocross Museum fundraiser. I did talk to him there about doing the interview, and we're finally getting around to it. Thanks, Brian. I'm looking forward to speaking to you, and I'm sure everyone's got a lot of questions for you. We've got a race coming up, and I just mentioned to you that some people will ride for free, and I'm not kidding. The old school Scrambles race put on by Tammy Greenhill will be happening at the Glen Helen track. It's round 1, and that happens on February 27th. Now, all the Southern California people will be there, but in order to get some Northern California folks, Nevada folks, and Arizona guys, Rod Lake, in an extreme display of generosity, is letting everyone from those areas ride for free. You heard me correctly. Rod Lake will pay your entry fee if you are from NorCal, Nevada, or Arizona. Get down to Glen Helen on February 27th and get in the first round of the old school's Scramble. That's on the truck track, too. Great fun for everybody. Rod Lake, wow. Whew. Hey, if you have an event coming up, why don't you send it in to us? We'll put it here on the show. I'll also put it on all the vintage events calendars on, we've got a page on Facebook, Vintage Motocross Events, which would make sense that is the name, wouldn't it? Anyway, send in your event to us, and we'll get it posted on that page. We'll also plug it here on Facebook. We've got another event coming up. I don't want to say too much about it, but there's a huge Can-Am thing coming up, and I can't wait to tell you about it. When I get the green light, I'll tell you a bit more about it. But this is one of the biggest events that I can remember or I can recall happening any place. It will be coming up soon. I'll be telling you about that Can-Am reunion. I want to thank Bill Nazarod, Mike Slate, Tom Grimmel, and everybody at the Potomac Vintage Riders for the absolutely fantastic time I had there last weekend. There's a picture of Mike and Bill Nazelrod and I. It was fabulous. The vendors were all sold out. Over 370 booths were sold out at the York Swap Meet. I had the pleasure of speaking the night before at the Potomac Vintage Riders banquet. It was fabulous. The food was great. There was an open bar. There was a lot of fun. Kurt Flashbart was there. He talked about his days of being a magazine editor. And there was some other people there that really put on a great display. At speaking at the banquet, I did spend some time with my good friend and sponsor, Paul Stannard from Preston Petty Products, and I met a lot of other really, really nice people. So I want to thank Bill Nazelrod once again, Mike Slate, Tom Grimmel, everyone over at the York Swap Meet. I'm really looking forward to coming back next year. Thanks, guys. The Finish Line is brought to you by Northwest Mako CZ. This week at Northwest Mako CZ, you can get an electronic ignition for your CZ 250 for just $469. This little ignition will make your bike run like a modern bike. They've been made in-house there at Northwest Mako CZ from the beginning. And if you have one of these and you want to replace some parts, you get a hold of Alan Brown. They sell all the parts separately for your CZ 250, $469. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts and hoodies are still available in both gray and white. The hoodies are great. Jordan got one for himself, as a matter of fact. He showed it to me a little bit earlier today. So get them in gray, get them in white, get yourself a hoodie. Keep yourself warm this winter. Just $19.99 for the shirt. A couple of bucks more for the hoodie. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. People are really seeing results from being a sponsor of the show. So just like Motion Pro, Preston Petty, Vintco, Full Circle, Northwest Mako CZ, and everybody else, get a hold of me. I will get you a sponsorship proposal package. It's a whole lot less than you might think, and you could be reaching over 20,000 people a week, not only through Facebook, but also on YouTube. And don't forget, we're on 2 television stations out in Long Island in the Hamptons. Pretty well-to-do area, a lot of money out there. I'm sure there are a lot of dirt bike riders. There's always a lot of tracks, a lot of off-road events. Get a hold of me. I'll get you a sponsorship proposal package. You can see what everybody else is saying. That wraps it up for this segment of Vintage Motocross Q&A. I am Joe Abadi. I want to thank you all for making comments tonight, calling in for the trivia contest, all of our sponsors who have been so generous to us. And once again, a special thanks to Bill Nazelrod, Mike Slate, Tom Grimmel, everyone at the Potomac Vintage Riders. Don't forget, coming up February 13th, Flying Brian Myerscough will be my guest on Vintage Motocross Radio. Gino, all right. Way to go, guys. All right. We'll see you next time on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Oh, man.